Welcome back. I'm Mindy Turner, Curry County Cooperative Extension Service, Family and Consumer Science Agent, bringing that New Mexico State University research-based knowledge right out to you in your community. We've been talking for this series about small appliances, some of those quandaries, things we can't quite figure out about what we really need in our kitchen. And we end up wasting a lot of time and a lot of money and resources on things that maybe we don't need or that we never learned to really use properly. So we've talked a little bit about air fryers. We did last time, we looked at multi-cookers or pressure cookers. Today, we're gonna go to that old standby. These are our slow cookers, or what most of us know as a crock pot. Now, I'm gonna be honest, this is the one I'm most familiar with. I have one of my crock pots at home, it's probably 25 years old. So this is something that most of us grew up with, having around or seeing, and so we're more familiar with how and what we can do with it. But I do find we either stick it in the cabinet and just haven't pulled it out in a while, or we end up making the exact same things over and over because why look up a new recipe? And I know I get it, I have kids, and so whatever they'll eat is kind of what we get stuck making repeatedly so that it gets eaten. But it's fun sometimes to just pull these out and try some new recipes, new things that you might do. So here's some tips, some things that we can really think about. First of all, a great thing about your slow cookers is gonna be that quick prep, like we said with our multi-cooker, and that slow cook time. So now, instead of like with my multi-cooker, oh, I forgot to put it on this morning. I'm gonna run home, get it all prepped and fixed and put it in the multi-cooker and have it ready in a short amount of time. That's great. Or I can prep ahead of time, still a quick prep, put it in, and it's gonna cook while I'm at work, while I'm outside taking care of other chores, going on about my business, doing other things, and the crock pot's there doing the work. So the idea behind it is that you have low heat for a longer cooking process. So basically what you're gonna have your heating base, okay, you can see, they range in size anywhere from 1 quart all the way up to about 7 quarts. Now you can buy them, they have multiple ones in the same base, where you can do multiple things at one time, set it up as a party. They're great for parties and things like that to keep your food in, keep it warm, take it to a potluck along with you, those types of things. But so you have your heating base, then you're gonna have your insert, which is your crockery, maybe stoneware, ceramic, depends what kind you have. And then of course a lid. So now you're gonna wanna make sure you have the lid that fits. That's one of the things I see a lot when people talk about their crock pot. The lid gets broken, and then you don't have a way to use it. So if you have an older one, checking out those garage sales or online auctions, sometimes you can find the lid that actually fits yours, or with newer ones, you can actually go in and to the company and order the lid, that just a replacement lid that will fit on there. So your lid's either gonna be plastic or a tempered glass, which is what these are. I actually have one at home that's old enough the crock doesn't actually come out, which obviously is a little more difficult for cleanup and trying to get those things taken care of. So consider that if you're going out to purchase one, you wanna make sure that you can remove the inside, because when you get ready to clean it, your crock, your lid, all of that's gonna be dishwasher safe. Put it in the sink and hand wash it just like you would all of your other regular dishes. A nice damp cloth, a little bit of soap to clean your heating base, because obviously this is electric. We do not want to submerge it in water, put it in the sink, and always remember, like we've said with our other appliances, it is a small appliance. You want to unplug it before you clean it. So when we put it all back together, once we've got it set up and we've decided what we're gonna make in our crock pot, there's a few things that we want to really consider. So first of all, if we are high altitude in New Mexico, pretty much the entire state is considered high altitude. So if you're following a recipe, something you grabbed off Pinterest, or sometimes even what comes on a package of something that you've purchased, you may need to allow a little extra cook time for that, just to account for our altitude difference. So be sure that you take that into consideration. The other thing that I always struggle with is like, oh, well, there's room in there, I can shove more in it. Or I just need to cook this little bit, but I'm not gonna get out my smaller crock pot, I'm just gonna use my large one that I really like. And so you want your crock pot, for it to cook optimally, it needs to be half to 2/3 full. Okay, so you don't want it brimming to the top where you're having to smash the lid down on it to keep everything in, but you also don't want just a little bit down there in the base, because obviously It's just like when you put things in the oven or the microwave, smaller amounts cook faster. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you adjust it and have that 1/2 to 2/3. And all your food safety rules still apply. So if you do prep it the night before, you're not gonna leave this crock sitting out on the counter with your food in it. You're gonna put it in the fridge, which can be difficult. You may not always have room. So you're gonna wanna get it all set up and ready and not take it out until in the morning. Same thing with just once it's cooked, you want it to stay warm and keep those things to that internal temperature so that you're fighting those bacteria. It's also why we're not gonna reheat leftovers in our crock pot, because it's not gonna get it to that internal temperature quickly enough to fight off a lot of those bacteria. So you wanna think about that, and always use your meat thermometer to check the internal temperature of those things to make sure that you're covered food safety wise, okay? So also, you can use cooking spray. They make liners in all different sizes to go in all the different types that you can put, so that it's gonna make your cleanup a little easier. And then one of the things that I always struggle with, that I know a lot of people ask about, well, this recipe just talks about on high, or this recipe wants you to do everything on low. Typically, what you wanna remember is that 1 hour on high is gonna be about 2 hours on low. So high is gonna cut that cooking time in half, low is gonna extend it. So it works out pretty well for the most part for you planning and being able to set your stuff. So now with that being said, a lot of crockpots on the market now actually have their own timers, their own setup where they're gonna, you set the time that you want it to cook, it gets to that time and it shuts off. It goes to just keep warm on the settings. So this one has actually a digital display. You're gonna pick it, it goes by 30-minute increments, and you can set it for whatever time you want in there. This one has a different type of setup, but you can choose 4 or 6 hours on high. You can choose 8 or 10 hours on low. So there's that 2-hour difference, right? And so you can give it the cook time, you can set it to warm. All of those things are choices you can make. So when you get ready, if you're thinking you want to purchase one, you can look at all the different features they have. I actually have one at home as well. It's like this, you can program that digital timer, but then it has a separate piece that adds to the lid that is a paddle, or I think it's got a mixer feature on it. So if you're making soups or stews or something that would need to be stirred throughout the day, because of course you don't want to open it and take the lid off, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of keeping it in there where it's cooking and being heated. You would be able to program that where it would stir it for you throughout the day as well. So again, it's another product with a lot of different features, a lot of different things. You don't want to go out and pay a whole lot more for features that you're not going to use, that are not going to be a benefit to you. So with all of our appliances, that's kind of what we've talked about. It's really only a bargain, it's really only worth the money, it's really only a benefit if you're gonna use it, okay? And same thing like we talked about, even though it's not cooking so much off air like the air fryer, you still don't wanna push it all the way up against the wall or under your cabinet, because it's heating up. So you wanna watch those elements and make sure that it has plenty of room around it. If you're adding soft vegetables like tomatoes or mushrooms or zucchini, you're gonna wanna throw those in for about your last 45 minutes of cooking, not necessarily leave them in there all day. Okay, of course, if you're using canned tomatoes, maybe you're making a soup or a stew, you're gonna wanna put those in because it's gonna be blending the flavors and adding those juices. But if you're using especially fresh things, you're just chopping up tomato to throw in that recipe, you're not gonna wanna add it till about that last 45 minutes. So there's a lot of versatility in what we can do now with our slow cookers. It can save you time, it can save you money, can make, oh, I'm not gonna stop and get fast food on the way home tonight because I've got that wonderful meal waiting for me at home in my crock pot. So those are gonna be important things to consider if this is an appliance that you think you might need or want to use. So this is, like I said, the third in our 4-part series. So we'll be back one more time to talk about some of the essential things that you might wanna consider having in your kitchen. Again, I'm Mindy Turner with the Curry County Cooperative Extension Service. If you would like to sign up to receive our newsletter, or if you have a question you would like to submit, go to our website, curryextension.nmsu.edu, and we can help you with all of that. Click on Family Health and Wellness, and there's a place that you can do either of those things. Request a newsletter by hard copy or email, or ask a question. And as always, you can call our office, stop by and see us. We are on Main Street in Clovis, And so we'd love to hear what you think about your appliances. If you have a recipe to share or just an excellent tip that you figured out, please get that to us, and we would be glad to share that out to the community. I hope you're having a wonderful week. Enjoy your slow cooker. Thanks.